And here we are. So I want to welcome you, Devorah, and welcome also to all the people who are tuning in. They're going to be, I've had people who have been waiting, just lining up going, oh, I'm going to make it or I can't make it. Can I watch the replay? So we've got a lot of interest. So speaking to those of you who are coming in, so if you're watching us live, then please write in the comments, write where you are coming in from, and feel free to write any question you want. I've got some questions here that some of you have written in, and if you've got more questions afterwards, Devorah and I will go in and we're going to respond to all of your questions. So coming back to you now, Devorah. Thank you so much for agreeing to interview me. And I'm so excited. I was telling everybody that you are a story whisperer.
I love that. You might have been the first person who called me like that.
So yeah, do you want to just say a little bit about yourself and we'll jump in?
All right. Well, I'm going to have to tell you a story.
Oh, yay.
So a long time ago in a faraway, no, I'm just kidding. When I,
I'm all set.
But it was kind of a long time ago, because when I was 18 years old, I was working as an assistant in a preschool, and I all my life I loved working with little children, and I knew that was a big part of what I wanted to do in the world. And so one day I was at this preschool, and I was always a wild person all my years still now, and I was playing tag and I was chasing the kids, and they were going, nah, 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 you can't get me, which I really hate. So I said, okay, if you want me to chase you, say iggledy biggledy boo. I don't know. So they're going biggly figgly figgly, and finally I'm tired. So in self-defense I said, sit down, I'll tell you a story. And out of my mouth, and this is sometimes what we see about our gifts, that they just come through in unexpected manners. And all of a sudden I started this story. Once there was an iggledy biggledy boo that lived in Zambadoodle. And I started telling this original story about the world of Zambadoodle. The next day they begged me to tell it again. And the wildest boys who would never sit for anything, they would beg me every day to tell that story. They would sit for as long as I would tell it. And I made up adventures, and that story never let go of me. It grew and grew. And over 40 years, I told that story to probably thousands and thousands of children. And that was a little all over the world, because I did that when I lived in Israel as well. And I'll tell you something that's super interesting about when I reflect on that story. And this is something that I talk a lot about. When you look back at the stories in your childhood, you will discover much about the calling of your soul. So the fact that I was always telling these stories, but in that story, it eventually settled into some regular things, but I made up many, many adventures with the children themselves. But the original regular story that I ended up telling over and over, the children go through a cave, and they get to this other world where the grass is purple, the sky is yellow, the sun is blue, and the cave disappears. And they meet these characters there who have to help them find their way home. And they each don't know, and each of the characters funny, has a movement, a sound. It's a funny story in that regard. But the last character, the way they're told to get home is they come to the top of a high cliff, and down below is a pink lake with a house the shape of a flower on it. And they're told this is the house of the Ora. She is a being of light, like a creature that's a spinning light. And all you have to do is jump off this cliff to get home. And they're like, we're so not doing that. And I say, no, you don't understand. When you jump off this cliff, the light of the Ora will send you home. All you have to do is picture where you want to go and believe you can get there. I didn't know all of this stuff we now study. And not only that, but the Ora, I didn't really know what an Ora was. And I didn't know that in Hebrew, the word for light is Or.
Wow.
And so that is kind of what happens for many people, when you look back at your story of your childhood, you can often see either what you've always been good at or what you've overcome in the wisdom you've gained.
I am so glad that you shared that. I'm just like, God, I want to know more, you know, and so just for those of you who are just tuning in, you are listening to Devorah Spillman, who is a story whisperer, I've called her. She is the host and creator of the In Story Summit, Awaken Your Soul Story. She's going to talk a little bit more about the summit a little bit later here. But we also want to find out about the woman behind the scenes. So who is Devorah and how did she create this? And so, yeah, that story that you shared, you know, you've really got me thinking, you know, already I'm kind of wanting to take notes and to sit back and reflect on my childhood and what's the story of my childhood. And oh my gosh. So, so tell me, can I dive in a little deeper here?
Yeah.
So what is it that I know you shared a lovely story about in your you know, in your childhood, and oh, and if you are just tuning in, sorry, to the people who are tuning in, please comment and write where you are coming in from, and any questions that you might have for Devorah or I as we're delving into this conversation. So Devorah, you shared about your story, you know, growing up and how you just kind of fell into storytelling and how people just listened to you and you found them spellbound with your stories. But tell me though, this work with women, you know, awakening your soul story. Like I know for myself, like my journey of starting my business, it really is, you know, it was through, you know, finding my own soul story and healing my wounds that I created that. So can you share a little bit about what were the, like, how did you begin this particular journey in working with women in this way? And what life challenges did you have to overcome?
So just to give you a little perspective on sort of the trajectory of my career. So I started as storytelling in schools for children, and then that progressed to storytelling for families, and then it started to include puppeteering, then include clowning. But a lot of this was for children, and I'm Jewish, and as I got more into my Jewish life, I went to Israel and really I started to integrate my spirituality with my religion of birth, which I had kind of left. And after living in Israel, I came back to the States, and I then started to create a one-woman show that was called Is God a Man in the Sky? And it tells the story of how
I
I
love
went from,
that.
yes, it tells the story of how I went from hating Hebrew school to becoming religiously Jewish, like Jewishly, spiritually practicing and observant. And it includes kind of my spiritual journey. And one of the things that's also true when I looked back at my life is that I always believed in God. Not because I was taught it, just because I knew. And I grew up in a generation, my parents were Holocaust survivors, not from the camps, but from Germany and Holland. So I grew up on these stories of the Holocaust. And then the teachers at that time were also mostly survivors of the Holocaust. So a lot of our teaching was, and you have to be Jewish because of what we suffered. So it didn't leave a lot of spiritual inspiration. And the Jewish high holidays, whereas like my parents weren't very religious, so that we went on this Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur where it says you're going to be written into the book of life or the book of death. So clearly God's doing the writing. Clearly, if it's God important, it must look like the rabbi. So must mean that according to Judaism, God is a man in the sky with a beard and a book. And I was like, I'm out of here. Because by the time I went to college, I was like, that doesn't reflect my inner spiritual life. And there was one day in college, I'll tell you one little really powerful story from in my show, and it will give you a little bit of an insight to why, you can see your wisdom developing over your life if you look back at your stories. So I was in a peer counseling class called co-counseling, and it was they dealt with all kinds of issues of all the different isms. And on this particular day, they were working on anti-Semitism, and I knew I was Jewish, even though I didn't do anything about it. And the teacher said, "Would you like to work in front of the group?" I said, "Sure, I don't care." She said, "Okay, I would like you to stand up proudly and say, 'I'm a Jew.'" front of the class. So I said, okay. I stood up and I said, I could not say the word Jew. I felt like I was calling myself a swear word. And until that moment, I would have said I hadn't experienced anti-Semitism. I didn't feel that. And it sent me on a whole trajectory of realizing what I had internalized from all the Holocaust stories I grew up with, even though I didn't experience it myself. I grew up very safe in Los Angeles and no big deal. And that led me to go visit Israel. And it led me on a path that realigned my spiritual source, which is my Jewish soul, with my natural, expansive, creative, intuitive, woo-woo self. They got to go together. And that is what I think happened. So I continued teaching. I moved more into the Jewish schools and Jewish storytelling, spiritual storytelling. And the last school I was in, right near my home in Portland, I was like a shining light in the school for about almost 10 years until I wasn't. Until new administration came with new budgetary details, with requirements, until I became invisible to them. I was a body that could speak Hebrew, so that's what I did. And they were like, oh, we can't remember. I didn't remember to ask you to do storytelling. Like I had been the storyteller of the school in the past. Mm. And I was feeling unseen, undervalued, and I wanted to quit, but I didn't quite have the courage to do it. Mm. And so I got fired for something very, very weird and bizarre. And I remember sitting there while being fired, saying to them, even though I was crying, this is the hand of God.
That's what I was thinking.
I knew it. I said it. And they kept me the whole rest of the year. They kept me for my summer courses because I was like the shining light of the school. Like they couldn't deny that, but it was just like the hand of God. They were like being manipulated. And I even got unemployment and was able to use that to create my own business. And the first iteration of it was Spillman Story Selling. And this is really important for anybody who's working on creating something new. I used the technique I created about using metaphor. And I trained a very close friend who works in corporate. He's very creative and spiritual, but he works in corporate. And he won literally a multi-million-dollar contract for his company using my metaphor technique. So he says, Devorah, I'm making you a website on Christmas Day because we don't work. And then I didn't know what to do. He's like, well, you could go into corporate, but I just couldn't fit into the clothes and the world. And so that didn't work. So this concept of being an entrepreneur and having my own business really attracted me, but I bumped up against, I have no idea how to do that.
Right.
So I landed in a coaching program that happened to teach how to host a telesummit. And even though I was kind of clueless and I didn't know, it was perfect for me. As a storyteller, I interviewed people, heard their stories, and lo and behold, people hired me. I couldn't believe it. I mean, because I had never shaped the gifts I had into this form. But it went through iterations because as I started to work with people who wanted to storytelling in sales, I would say to them, well, look, only work with me if you want to go deep, because I only do deep and a little wacky. So as I started to say that, I realized it wasn't about sales, it was about soul calling. I wanted to go into soul. And as I went deeper, it was like it was a woman's voice, it was a woman's style, and men didn't sign up anymore. And it was like, oh, okay, fine. And then it was older women. It's like, okay, fine. We mostly usually coach ourselves. So it ended up being, and the name In Story came to me because it's all about going into your inner being, your inner soul, and to bring that story out in the world. And then that has grown. I hosted my own telesummit, and a few years back I said, I now have a group of women who work with me for a whole year to find their story and bring it out in the world. I'm putting them on my summit. And they said, Devorah, we are so not doing that. And I said, oh, yes, you are. So you will see on my show half professional experts like you, like Leanne, who've already done this beginning work to get like blah and through all that craziness. And you will also see the women who are just starting to shape their talents and their gifts into a new form. It's not that we don't have all our wisdom and our gifts. It's that we're being called to shape it into something new. So that
Mhm.
gives you like kind of the trajectory, and then we can go into the bumps too if you want.
That is awesome. And I love that you shared also too how the name In Story has arisen and you know what that speaks to. So for those of you who are just tuning in to Devorah and I'm interviewing Devorah Spillman. So she is the host and creator of the In Story show and summit and Awaken Your Soul Story. So we're finding out behind the scenes what's happening and all about Devorah and her journey. So please write in the comments where you're coming in from and any questions or comments you have. So I've got some other questions here for you, Devorah.
Okay.
Love to dive into. So Nikki asked, how do I bring my story back out of her shell? Where do I start?
Okay, so that's a great question. And that is one of the things about each of us and how we each have a unique body of work and a unique style. So what I discovered is that the way you do that, it's not by thinking about it more. I've created a process that is the in-story guided process that is, like for a lot of us, it's something that came to me, and it's 5 steps that have you close your eyes and go inside and get into that place where you're able to access your subconscious, your higher guidance. Because if you go in, and if we have time, we can do a little demo of it. But if you go in to that deep place and you ask that question, so ask me that question again that she asked, how do I bring my story out?
How do I bring my story back? So even the question's got a story about it. How do I bring my story back out of her shell?
Correct.
Where do I start?
So you start by going inside, and it has the acronym STATE. So the first step is stop and breathe. So that gets you into that place. That's where we always have to go for this alternate, like I call it this sort of spiritual imagination work. And now I've been talking about how it's really this quantum shifting work because it's getting you out of your try harder mind.
Mhm.
The second step is think about it. So then you think, what's your question? What are you working on? The third and fourth step go together. It's ask and trust. And this is what will allow you to find that story, because you ask, what is the story that's just right for this moment? And then you trust the first thing that comes to your mind, no matter what it is. And this is how you sort of trick or circumvent your resistance, your ego, all of those. Oh, that's not it. That's not good enough. Oh, no one will like it. All that. And you trust what you get every time. And when you do this process, it is unbelievable. And that's why I started to see it as having to do with what people talk about quantum shifts, because I call it shift, shape, and share. When you do this work, it allows you to access your subconscious, and boom,
Mhm.
it's right there. You're out of the old story. I have a whole process for clearing stories. And what it does is it gives you access to this other realm. And in that, your story is available to you. So what happens is you find the story, and then ideally you're in a group with other supportive women so that you have somewhere very safe to share it. Because part of why we don't bring certain things out is because we got hurt for sharing it before, or we got neglected or yelled at or disregarded or whatever it was. It wasn't safe, honestly, to be our authentic, vulnerable selves. But now, look at here we are. Here I am talking with Leanne, and you're on Facebook, and we can be anywhere in the world, and we can now find each other in a way we never could. And this is an extraordinary thing. So you'll have an opportunity to experience my process one way or another. And if you don't, there's a way you can have my introductory session, my soul story session. Leanne will connect you with all of that, and it will show you. You will literally experience the answer to your question. sing.
But beautiful, just really beautiful flow of the steps. And what I can hear too is that it's a real journey in listening to your intuition.
Oh yeah. And trusting that and
Yeah.
feeling safe enough to share it.
Yeah, because that's a really, and it's a really big part of our lives right now. Just as you said, that there was a time when it wasn't safe to speak out, when it wasn't safe for us to connect. And I mean, all of that is breaking apart now. So we really are on a journey of trusting and going in story. And listening to that. And I love what you said, that you gotta, like you trust the first thing that comes. It comes, right. you go, you move, that's, I call that divine action.
Yes.
Really listening to that. So I've got some other questions here too. And also too, if you're just tuning in, if you've got questions, then please write them, Devorah, and I will go in and answer all the questions. And let us also know where you are coming in from. So I've peeked at some of the comments. We've got Florida, New Zealand, and Canada.
That.
Yeah, very exciting. So the other question I've got, so this one Barbara asked, and she said, how do we find peace amongst all the anxieties we currently face?
I have no idea. No, okay. I mean, there's sort of no answer to that and a million answers to it. So in my world, when you do this guided process that I teach, when you do it regularly, it actually has a very healing effect, because what happens is you're accessing this. I think this is probably the answer. We have access to a higher realm. It has many names, from all the way from God to your higher self, and to angels, to spirit guides. It has many names, this other realm. And always, this is an amazing thing. When I hear myself connecting to this realm and everyone else, the first thing that you will hear from this realm is, we love you so much. We are loved. I mean, in my most traditional Jewish world, it's, we love God. God says you love God with all your heart and soul, and that I, God, have loved you with an eternal love. It is a love relationship between humans and this other realm. And this other realm has a million names depending on the culture you come from and your experience, but it is real. And in America, in many ways, and maybe in other countries as well, but a lot of Western countries in the last chunk of time, we've sort of been denied access, personal access. We sort of had that realm discounted to us, undervalued. It's not science, it's not theology, it's not really real. So could you just stop talking? It's just woo-woo. In school, stop that, get your work done, comply with the rules. Even when I was in undergraduate school in the 80s, I wrote my undergraduate thesis on the importance of imagination in learning. And it's, if anything, worse now. And without access to that higher guidance and support, it is very hard for humans. We are not meant, in my opinion, to be without that support, but many of us had that severed from. You have it naturally as a kid, if you're given half a chance. And I was lucky, no one severed it from me. I just didn't know, I just couldn't find the Jewish expression of it when I was younger. And I, thank God, I eventually, found a rabbi who had left Judaism before me, gone to his guru in India, and then had the guru say, now go back and be a Jew. And he became a very expanded consciousness, very religious Jewish rabbi. And so the way to heal from all of this anxiety is to do elevated work that nourishes your soul. To remember that we are elevated beings of light. I get this message. I now do this on my walks in the forest. Get out into nature and feel the beauty and the blessing of nature around you. stay in groups like this, connect with people like me, like Leanne, feel that you are not holding it up alone. The world is cuckoo right now. And if we go down that rabbit hole in any direction, it's crazy making. And now is the time for us to lift ourselves up, not to ignore what's going on, but to expand. So like the message I got most recently on my walk, when I was thinking about how do I do it? I need to do it. I need to do it. And the message was, no, you need to be in an expanded realm of being. That was the exact words, be in an expanded realm of being where the doing is already done. And it dawned on me that term, I do it, makes me feel like I have to do it all alone.
Yes.
And, and in my group, I did a guided process for my year-long group clients. And one of them said her amazing image was that in this, I led them into what I call like, not just spiritual imagination, but like the field of the quantum field. And she said, it was like lava lamps. She said what was amazing to her was that a Pegasus came and carried her. And she said, I never let myself feel carried. I'm always carrying everyone else. And someone in my group on my leadership team had just helped her hugely in like a moment of like synchronicity, that this other one had emailed her and helped her with a big thing. And she was overcome by the awareness of how rarely she lets herself be carried. And this deep work that I do, it realigns you with the message of your soul, the calling of your soul. You start to feel held and carried and guided, and you become able to shine the light of who you really are. And it starts to illuminate your being, and you feel different. And then you become able to shine that light onto the next person, and they feel different. And you start to see your gifts. This is the weirdest thing. We are all a little invisible to ourselves. Like the thing that almost all of us do the most easily, the most brilliantly, we don't think it's very valuable.
No,
it's
so
too
true.
easy.
Yeah.
So not true.
Yeah, I know. Yes. And the as you're talking too, what also came to me around the anxiety and is that it's when we forget, when we think that we are separate,
right,
and we don't listen to that that flow of wisdom, that connection that we automatically have.
Yeah.
It's not even like we are severed, it's just that we forget. And so we don't go there. We don't open to listen to that wisdom. And that in of itself creates anxiety. So I love how you shared that, because when we open to the connection that is already there, that is waiting for us, then we no longer feel alone.
Right.
And that's part of actually the undoing of an unhelpful story, as the story of our soul emerges. Right?
Yeah. So it's such a profound work, and you got to do the work. You got to the soul pulls you into.
I know.
What is your tool bag? You
got to do the work.
Tool bag for how to reset, how to get back up, how to reconnect. We don't do this alone. And
I know, and I just want to make sure that that the questions that have come in, they get asked. So I've got one more, and now this one, I'll just set a little context for it. So as I was sharing with her about you, and just through a message, and this is the question that popped out from her. So it is related with our stories. And so her question for us was, where are our men?
What did she mean by that?
She's talking about relationship. So she said, I am a strong woman, just like you and Devorah. And this question was from Olga. And, she said, I have been looking and waiting a long time for my mate. And, I haven't met him, and I'm wondering where he is. So I thought I would, just bring this question in because I can also hear it from an old story, from a story where, we don't, we were either looking for someone to complete us or we're looking for the right person. And, we have in our frame of our mind all the bits that somebody has to fit. And there are a lot of places we could go with this question, but I just wanted to put it on the table. Where is your wisdom calling for a response to that?
So, I have no idea also on this, and I will tell you what comes to me, but it's another one of those questions where there's not an answer, but I will tell you the feeling I have about it, which is, I think when you do the deep work to connect to your own soul story and you begin to clear those, like what you said, like the negative stories, when you begin to clear those and you feel that connection, that illumination of your soul story, I think it's again that kind of, it's like that, like tuning in that quantum shifting energy, which is not more time, more effort, but a whole different energetic state of being. And what I find is when the women I work with do this deep work and they shift out of the old and you start to shape what's really authentic to you and you start to honor that flow and you begin to share it with the world, you start to feel a deeper level of fulfillment. And I think when we emanate from that place of wholeness and fulfillment, it somehow the way you see and what shows up in your world changes. It's kind of like my message to be in the realm of expanded being when I was asking about doing. It was, no, you have to be in that more expanded realm of being. In that realm, the doing will have already been, it's like it requires an energetic transformational shift that comes from doing deep work of some sort, like energy, not therapy, because you've probably already done that. So this is different. This is more energetic and more about this intuitive thing, and it's not the direct route. It's by going towards your soul's calling for your own sake, from your own higher guidance. And then I think you will see the men that are also illuminated.
Mm-hmm. I hear you right there.
One can only hope anyway.
It's true. I mean, I've met a beautiful mate, and it was not through all the looking and searching. It was actually out of me coming back to myself and transforming who I have been, who I was inside myself. And then it was almost like magic. I wasn't expecting, and it's like, whoa, there he pops out. And the just maintaining that integrity of, of what's important to me and who I am and the work I do in the world.
Right.
And it's really interesting that the clearer I am about who I am and the work I do in the world, the stronger he and I become.
Right.
Which, was never, I guess an old story I'd had in the past was I either had to be in relationship and give up everything else in my life, or I did my soul story, my soul purpose, and then I couldn't have a relationship. And it was, and I was just really committed to having a breakthrough in that. And so I did my work in having that breakthrough. And so it's just really interesting that, so what you're saying is true. This, when we alter who we are inside, as we allow all of that great inner wisdom to flow, we transform ourselves and our world transforms. It's not a direct route.
Right. Surprisingly, yeah.
Yeah. So just as we finish up here, what do you want the women to know about your upcoming summit?
Oh, yeah. Well, you have to come to see Leanne. But it's one of the things I love so much that I do is I interview women, and when you hear them tell their stories, that it allows you to know that your story matters too, that you too can actually shift out of what's been holding you back and begin to shape your natural, authentic calling of your soul. So it's a free show. I interview, it's interesting. I have 11 and 11. I have 11 professional experts and 11 of my in-story women. And when you listen to the in-story year-long women who are doing off, not all of them are doing it the first time. Some of them have been in my program for longer, but you see, oh, okay, if she could do it, I can do it. You will find tremendous encouragement that you are not alone, that you are connected with a community of women who are committed to tapping into their soul, to finding their stories, to bringing them out of the world, to shifting out of all of that. You have to comply. You know, my program's called the In-Story Way. And I have two things I say about it. One is finally doing it your way. You know how long we've done it everyone else's way? And the other is the in-story way to create and live an illuminated life, a life that lights you up. And it will allow you to turn your gifts into a business if that's your calling, or to turn it into writing to leave a legacy, depending on. I have women who want to simply make a difference and some who want to make a business. And the most important thing is that you have a story that has wisdom. Your experience of getting up over and over, which we have all done, and the wisdom you have gained to be able to be a person who is here in this moment watching us means you have some light in you that is calling you to shine it out. And your story is what makes you unique. And when you watch the in-story show, you'll get an opportunity to actually experience my guided process that I mentioned. You'll be able to hear many, many women's beautiful stories and receive trainings, gifts, tools, experiences that are free from them. And it starts to build a voice together. So you'll have the link from Leanne about how to sign up. There's also a little offer. I have one of the most powerful courses I did. There's a little very low price offer for people can buy what is one of the most recent courses, not my most recent, but one I did before, called the 5 Steps to Soul Story Creation. And it was one of those intuitive moments. It came from the spiritual Jewish teaching on like the steps of how somebody's born or how a project is born. And I got this whole download and I did a teaching on each one of those steps. And when you see what step you're on, like if a baby's in the womb, you don't say, oh, you got to push it out right now if it's just starting. Like if you're just like if you know what step you're on, you don't beat yourself up for not doing this thing over here. Like you're not beating yourself up for going to college if you were just born.
Right.
So when you see which step you're on, and in that course, I did a lot of telling my personal stories, and you see how to use your story to teach. So I hope you'll come in, dive in, and trust that you have a story and your story matters.
That is beautiful. So yes, I will put the link in below so that everyone has access to that. And Devorah, thank you so much. And I just wanted to check you. Have you got a few more minutes, or are we? I know.
Yes, I do.
Okay. Now you said that you had a little taste of what you wanted to.
Sure. You want to do a quick little experience?
Oh, we'll just check in. Do people want to do that? You just write in the chat if you want it, and I know they're gonna go yes, yes, yes. So let's go.
A 5-minute. My in-story guided process is weirdly short, simple, and extremely powerful, which is when I started to learn what quantum meant. I went, oh, that's what it does. It's a quantum thing, So I'll do like my most basic example of what it is. All right. So everybody close your eyes and just begin to notice your breath coming in and out. And really allow yourself to feel that shift to stillness. And feel a sense of breathing bigger than your physical self. And then allow your awareness to shift to that flow from above and feel your connection to God, to source, the universe, and feel that pure light from above coming down to the top of your head, filling your whole body, your whole being with light, love, healing, blessing, guidance, clarity, down through your feet into the earth, grounding you in the earth. And then breathe up that solid, rooted, comforting energy of the earth into the center of your being and be aware of being in that state of connected flow. This is always the first step of the in-story guided process that has that acronym state, stop and breathe and feel that you are in a state of connected flow. This is always the beginning of this work. It gets you out of your try harder mind. Just feel that flow from above. Feel a sense of breathing bigger than your physical self. The second step is think about it. And we use this step for lots and lots of things. Sometimes we use it for clearing old stories, for gathering. So today we're going to use it for gathering an image or metaphor. So what I want you to think about right now is I want you to think about what you are grateful for. What are you blessed with? What are you so thankful for? What are your gifts? What are you good at? This is the moment where we're going to take our focus and move it over to the positive. Tap into deep gratitude. Feel what are your blessings, your gifts, what you do in the world, what lights you up. Just take a moment and feel aware of your gifts, your blessings, that for which you are deeply blessed and grateful. Gratitude is really a powerful way to let ourselves feel the benefit of our gifts. The next two steps always go together, are ask and trust. So today what I want you to ask is I want you to say inside yourself, what is an image or a metaphor for who I am and what I do in the world? An image or a metaphor for my gifts, my blessings, my natural abilities that is just right for me in this moment. You ask it just like that. What's an image or a metaphor that's just right for me in this moment of who I am, what I do in the world, what are my gifts? And the key is you must trust the first thing you get. Like if you went, oh, not that, not that, not that. Like if you went, oh, that's not good enough. That's trite. Oh, no, no, no. You got to go back and say yes to the first thing, no matter what it was. So trust the first thing you get. And notice the details. The more detail you can notice in an image or metaphor, the more you will get wisdom, receive wisdom from it. So just notice the details, allow it to grow, unfold, change, whatever happens, trust whatever you get. And the last step is always explain, interpret. How is this image like me? How am I like this image? What does it seem to be about? What is its message to me? And as always, trust what you get, and you can apply the technique of ask and trust at any point in the process. So if this image is very rich and has much to it, you can ask, what else am I meant to see here? What is another message? And always trust the first thing you get. And notice, is there a feeling? How does it make you feel? And now just take it in, notice what you got, and then begin to bring yourself back into this moment and breathe yourself back into the moment. And what I encourage you to do is be brave and write down your gifts and then write down your image and what you think it means. And just to give you an example of how it works, Leanne, if you would be willing to tell us what was your image, I'll share a little bit about how to use it.
Yeah. Okay. So the first, and I love that process, by the way, that was so cool. So the first image that came to mind was a heart. And then immediately after it was this spiral. And then the spiral, I wasn't sure whether it was actually attached to the heart, was it behind the heart? And it kept changing. So sometimes it spiraled down, sometimes it spiraled out.
So I'm going to ask you to describe a little more details. What did the heart look like? What color was it? What shape? Did it have like an image, a shape, a something?
So the heart was pink, and it was really big. Like it just took up most of the screen in my mind.
And
It
what
was a
is the
3D.
feeling of this? So I always make people work a little bit first. What is the feeling of it? What is it? What do you think it means?
Well, that's the core of the work that I do, which is healing all healing wounds that have scarred our hearts, have held our hearts small and held us back. So our hearts and our soul don't express themselves because we're so busy protecting it. So setting it, and that's
Mm,
right, that it was also a very clear and very simple feeling of freedom that I
mhm.
had with it.
And then what does spiral feel like it's about?
The spiral, the first message I got was around spreading the love,
Mhm,
like planting the seeds, just spreading and planting and healing and connecting. And so it was like there was an ongoingness. And then the fact that it just kept changing perspective was also two part of my work, which is to constantly change who is looking, and also to constantly change what I'm looking at and from the perspective. So and that's also part of my work. So it helped. It's almost too, it was like a key. The spiral was like a key.
mhm, mhm,
Help unlock and undo the blockages and wounds around the heart. So the heart
mhm.
is free.
So beautiful,
Mm.
right? And so what is the feeling of that for you? How does it make you feel? Like if you breathe that in into your whole being, what is the feeling of it?
It's very fulfilling. And it feels very true.
Right.
Like every part of my being and my body. That's yeah.
So this is often the case that what I should say it's always the case. What you get when you do this work, it is always true. It's sometimes unclear, like sometimes I will see a truth that the person who got the image doesn't see, but I always ask first, what do you see? And it is, this work will always lead you to a deep truth. There are all different kinds and all different ways, but you will now have, Leanne, forever, this ability to feel this power of your work, but also to talk about it.
Mm.
Sometimes when you are a leader, these images and metaphors are incredibly powerful ways to talk about what you do.
Mhm.
So you can turn around then and say, take a moment and feel this sense of this pure, clear heart that is expanding energy all directions. Like you can then use that image as a way of feeling and communicating the power and the authenticity and the truth of what you do.
Mhm.
It strengthens your ability to know who you are and what you do in the world and to talk about it.
That's
So
beautiful.
you can share your images in this Facebook group. You will
Yeah.
be able to connect with both of us and ask, because sometimes women will get images and we sometimes we have to see it for each other. Like I'll always encourage someone to see, what do you see first? But I can't even begin to tell you the extraordinary images and energetic shifts and quantum leaps that people make by doing this deep work. And you can see just this, it seems so simple. And that is this profound new idea that this is this idea of quantum, that it's not harder and more time and more effort and more suffering that creates success. We don't have to do that anymore.
No, it does. That's a whole other paradigm, and that is, yeah, that's not where we're at. It's not
Right.
where we're going. Yeah.
Right. Right. So
So,
trust the image you get and reach out if you have questions.
beautiful. Devorah, thank you so much for your time. So if you have just been tuning in and you got this wonderful process, I've been speaking with Devorah Spillman, who is the creator and founder of the In Story Show and Awaken Your Soul Story Summit. I'm going to leave the link below so you can access and register for the free summit. and get more of what Devorah has just given us a taste of. And also in the comments, just let us know, what did you do? What did you get? What was the first thing that came to your mind? And any other questions. So thank you for tuning in. And thank you, Devorah. Thank you so much for your time and sharing your wisdom. And I'm so excited. The summit is next week, and I'm looking forward to being with you there.
Yeah, it's great. And you can find me at devorahspillman.com, my name. There's all kinds of fun stuff to do there. And you can find how to schedule a soul story session. That's my free introductory session. So Leanne's community is invited to receive one of those.
So let's make sure that your link of your website gets in below in the comments too. Yeah. Okay, good. All right. So see you later.
Bye, everybody. Thank you so much.